Well, hey,
Hello again.
we're here again, and they're there again. And the 3 days off after Boulder didn't put any rust on these boys at all, did it?
It made me forget how we do this, but I'll be okay. I think we need. I'm going to want to do some kind of longitudinal study of birdsong over the course of this tour because the last couple of bird songs have really gone to some very interesting places.
Yes, indeed. Hey, we're anticipating a fairly short break tonight, so we want to get the business out of the way. David, why
All
don't you hit
right.
us with the set list first, and then we'll.
I will. But maybe out with the music never stopped. We heard Alabama Getaway, When I Paint My Masterpiece, Mr. Charlie, Tennessee Jed, Dire Wolf, and the aforementioned Birdsong Into Big Railroad Blues. And I just have to say about Nugsnet, we're here to pitch Nugsnet to people, and all you really need to know is I'm sitting at home. My wife is over there playing the ukulele along with the band. Other people are dancing in the living room behind me. The audio is just absolutely spectacular. I'm sitting there just floating on O'Teal's bass lines. And when it's all over, I can rewind it and start it again. It's just a fabulous thing.
That's right, and that means if you're watching the free preview of this on Nugs's YouTube feed or the band's Facebook or wherever, that means you can go back and watch the whole show. You can subscribe to the whole tour retroactively. You can pick out as many shows as your friends have told you are awesome. Do some window shopping and find out which shows you want to check out. And then after these shows are played, uh, in a very short time, they are put online for streaming and for download in a
Yes,
variety
the
of
audio
formats. So this
audio
is a
file, yeah.
comprehensive way to take in this tour, this band, the whole history of the band, going back to 2016, and um, also so much else great, so much wonderful music in
But
the
as you
Nugsnet
noted, we should
library.
keep this part short so we can
Yes.
go to the pre-recorded interview because the break is likely to be short, right?
That's right. So go to nugs.net and they will tell you everything about themselves, and you can get a 7 day free trial, which is a great
Right?
way to dip a toe in.
Or
So
livedead.co. But right
that's
now,
right.
we're going to watch a pre-recorded interview. We spoke with Jason Scheuner, who's one of the founders and board members of the Grateful Guitars Foundation. They're doing just an absolutely wonderful thing with not only with instruments that were owned by Grateful Dead members and played by Grateful Dead members on stage, but they're causing to be built new instruments to be played by younger musicians who love this music as well. It's a terrific thing they're doing, and they have a benefit to announce on August 13th that we'll be talking about as well. So please pay close attention from gratefulguitars.org. Let's talk to Jason Scheuner.
That's right. And as always, we won't be here when we come back from the interview. We'll go right back to the stage so the band can get back to business. So we'll see you again tomorrow night. Thanks, everybody.
Well, Dead Air is really, really happy to welcome Jason Scheuner of the Grateful Guitars Foundation. This man and his team have been making musical instruments available to dead-loving musicians, not only the original guitars, but replicas and stuff. They've been making Jerry Garcia style guitars and Phil Lesh style basses available to lots of people. What an amazing thing you're doing, sir.
Thank you very much. And it's an honor to be here with you fine gentlemen today.
Well,
What's it all
Jason,
about?
yeah, please tell us how this foundation came to be. And we know that these are some seriously and wonderfully obsessed deadheads who love these instruments, who have followed the evolution of the Dead's instruments over the years, and just all of us have dreamed of, oh, what would it be like to play wolf? What would it be like to play alligator? And you've made that dream a reality for a lot of people. Tell us how this all got started.
Well, it's obviously it's not just me. This foundation, Grateful Guitars Foundation, was founded by our good friend Andy Logan, who you both know and love. And Andy has put together a really fantastic board of directors for this foundation. And the mission of the foundation is to identify really exceptional players and to provide world-class instruments for those players to move forward into the next century. The style of music that we all love, that's become part of our lives, and is what gives us this amazing community that we're all part of. And one of the other things that we do as a foundation, between a number of the board members, we own a total of 13 stage played Grateful Dead guitars, Jerry guitars, Bobby guitars, Phil Lesh bass guitars. And we want to share those with the community by putting them back on stages with really wonderful players, and let the community in general be able to experience these instruments once again, and continue to forward this legacy that we have, that we all, like I said, love so much. And it's been an honor to be part of this foundation. And we have this wonderful benefit coming up on August the 13th at the Great American Music Hall. And we were honored to have the Great American Music Hall reach out to the foundation and ask us about doing this benefit to celebrate this famous date, August 13th, which, as we all know, One from the Vault is from the August 13th, 1975 show. And so we are going to celebrate this date at this amazing venue, with the amazing people that run this venue and our community, by bringing some of the best musicians within the Grateful Dead tribute band community together with a number of these wonderful stage played instruments, to raise awareness about what it is that we're doing in general.
That's fantastic. And for those who don't know, the significance of August 13th is that the Grateful Dead threw a private party at the Great American Music Hall to celebrate the release of Wake of the Blues for Allah on their own label. And it was, if not the most intimate show the Grateful Dead ever played, among the handful of the most intimate. The venue held about 600. I don't think there were more than 300 there.
Wow.
I inspire a lot of seething envy among friends by saying that I was one of the people
Yeah.
that night, and through somewhat less than ethical means. But anyway, I was happy to be there, and yeah, it was an unforgettable night, and for you guys to have that date on which to celebrate is fantastic and very appropriate.
So who's coming to play?
Well, we've got a pretty outstanding list of musicians. I've got a little cheat sheet here so I don't leave anybody out. Taking up the lead guitar position, we've got John Kadlasic from JGB and from Further, Jeff Matson from Dark Star Orchestra, Garrett Delanian from Jerry's Middle Finger, Stu Allen from Mars Hotel and Phil and Friends, as well as Zach Nugent from Dead Set. And then in the Bobby position, we've got Rob Eaton from Dark Star Orchestra. We've got Alex Jordan, who is also our musical director for this event. We've got Nate LaPointe from Cubensis. And then for the bass position, for the Phil Lesh position, we've got Skip Vangelis from Dark Star Orchestra, Brian Rashep from the Mother Hips, and Roger Seidemann from the China Cats.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, you introduced me to Roger. Then on keyboards, we have Rob Baracco from Dark Star Orchestra, Danny Eisenberg from the Mother Hips, and Scott Guberman from Phil and Friends. Playing drums, we have Dino English from Dark Star Orchestra, Jeremy Honig from JGB, and Brad Rodas from Cubensis. And so as not to leave the wonderful ladies out, we have Sunshine Becker and Elliot Peck lending their beautiful voices for vocals as well. So we're very, very excited about this lineup, and we intend to shift these musicians around into some wonderful configurations and play some wonderful material. And we hope to get as many as 12 different stage played Grateful Dead instruments spanning from years used from 1970 to 1995 throughout the course of the evening.
Wonderful. Let's talk about the foundation and what you're doing. You've put new instruments, like replica instruments, into the hands of a lot of players, and that's another one of the amazing things you're doing here. It's not just sharing the actual stage played guitars, which is in itself pretty damn cool, but you're creating instruments or commissioning instruments to be given to people. That's a really huge thing.
Correct, and that's what our mission statement is: to identify the premier players in our scene and to provide them with world-class instruments from world-class luthiers. Some of them are straight replicas. Some of them are instruments that are inspired by these instruments and their designs and their tones. And we have engaged with a number of different luthiers that are also part of our umbrella to make sure that we have the best luthiers making the best instruments for the best musicians. And in fact, there will likely be a presentation of one of these instruments at the event to a deserving musician. So
Well,
we want to really show the crowd and the community what it is that we do by not only providing the instruments to play on stage that are historic Grateful Dead stage played instruments, but also to show the types of instruments that have been provided for a number of these musicians. So you'll see a mix of these instruments that have been commissioned and built for these musicians by Grateful Guitars Foundation, as well as these historic instruments.
just to recap, this event is taking place on August 13th of this year at the Great American Music Hall in San Francisco. It's a benefit for the Grateful Guitars Foundation. I thought I heard it might have been sold out. Is there any chance that this is going to be streamed and made available to the larger world?
Well, it is almost sold out. There are still a few GA tickets. The VIP, Super VIP, and Reserve Balcony tickets are all sold out. And most of the GA tickets are sold out, but there are still a few left. So I would go to our website, gratefulguitars.org, and there's a link there to buy tickets.
Great.
As far as anything else, we are not saying anything other than what has been stated publicly in our social media and on our website and the different press outlets where we've gotten that information. But we hope for the best.
Right.
That's great. When you mentioned that there are these new luthiers making guitars based on these models, it just underscores the Grateful Dead were in large part responsible for this art form coming to be. I was around when the Beatles first hit, and they made mass consciousness happen of bands with guitars. But
right.
These guys, and I said, oh, that's an Epiphone guitar, that's a Fender guitar. Kids who were crazy about rock and roll started learning these things. But and as great as Les Paul and Leo Fender and these innovators were, they created an industry where these guitars were being produced en masse. When the Dead started first getting their stock guitars customized and then saying, well, build me something new, people like Rick Turner and Doug Irwin became like the Stradivarius and the Amati of our generation.
Yeah.
And so it totally makes sense that there are luthiers now emulating that model and maybe in some ways improving on it or using newer technologies to make the state of the art even a little better.
You're absolutely right, Gary. Rick Turner in the early days of Lambert really changed the game as far as how instruments were made, how they were constructed, the whole process and the techniques and the different types of woods that were used. And I don't know if you were aware of this or not, but Rick Turner actually taught Doug Irwin quite a bit about building guitars. Doug was one of Rick's apprentices, who obviously went on to his own incredible heights as a luthier. But this style of instruments, the laminated woods and the sandwich tone wood bodies and these neck through designs were really groundbreaking at the time, and they have become the foundation for today's boutique instrument market and scene. And we were even working with Rick Turner up until the time of his death on some of these projects, and consulting with him, and he was a big fan of what we are doing, and as is Doug Irwin, and the folks that are disciples of those guys. In fact, we have Leo Elliott from Scarlet Fire Guitars building replicas of Phil's Mission Control bass, and we've actually been able to use the original instrument as a reference to build these bass guitars, and those will be presenting themselves out there in the world here pretty soon.
That's incredible. I was at Skull and Roses year before last, or year before this, 22, and you had that wonderful tent where you had some pretty canonical instruments on display, and people could come up and say, can I play Alligator? Can I play Mission Control? I got to have each in my hands, and when you're holding one of those things in your hand, you realize this is not just an impressive piece of hardware. This is something that a great musician asked for this thing to be built to his specifications, to like play the music that was in his head, and that's something more than just buying a guitar off the rack. Musicians can make incredible music with guitars they just bought off the rack, and that's a sign of a great musician. The tone comes from the hands and from the mind. But the fact that these great luthiers have built these things to these exacting specifications, or in the case of Alligator, just modified it, in a way that really suited the player, there's a great history to that, and I love the fact that people have been able to check this stuff out close up. It's really wonderful.
Well, as Andy Logan says often, when we put these instruments on the stage, it creates a certain energy among the musicians on stage, which, as we know, the flame from the stage has spread to the floor. And then we get this incredible circular motion of energy where the musicians are more inspired because of the instruments that they're playing, and the crowd gets a little whiff of that, and they are that much more excited, and that rolls back into the stage, and then it becomes this circular wheel of energy, and combining the past with the present, and looking toward the future.
Indeed. Dead and Company have inspired many huge roars of joy from an audience, but I don't know if any can match when John Mayer walked on stage at Citi Field a few years ago with Wolf, and the Nugs cameramen were smart enough to focus on the decal as he walked out on stage, and people just freaked. And the first notes of Saint Stephen, which was the amazing choice of opening song, just sent this lightning bolt through the crowd, which is a different guitar. But anyway, it really does have that almost metaphysical power to see these instruments in action, like seeing a great young violin prodigy play a Stradivarius or something like that. It really
Absolutely.
It does have that resonance to it.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up, because in the classical genre, the collectors of the world class and the most historic and best instruments have always shared them with the community, have put them on stages with orchestras, and shared them with their community. And Andy and I talked very early on about the fact that the rock and roll world sort of missed that boat. And he and I and other members of the Grateful Guitars Foundation board, our objective is to change that trend and to make it not just acceptable, but cool and hip and fun to take these instruments where they've generally just been hoarded in somebody's man cave, and put them back on the stage and really share them with the community. Because not only is there a lot of excitement about the historic elements of these instruments, but they're also just incredible machines. The musicians that play these historic instruments time and time again will say, wow, it's not just the history behind this, which is mind-blowing, but just as an instrument, this thing sounds great, it plays great, it's just these guys knew what they were doing. The Rick Turners of this world and the Doug Irwins of this world, they made really exceptional music making machines. And so we want to share that with the world as much as we can.
That's a wonderful thing you're doing. Is there a process? Can people apply to your foundation to get one of these replica instruments? Is there a portal to the public?
Yes, thanks for asking that question, David. If you go to our website, gratefulguitars.org, there's not only our mission statement and again a link for tickets, the ones that are left, but there's also the ability to put in an application and potentially get something made specifically for you.
That's a wonderful
it's
thing.
a matter of making these instruments dream instruments for these musicians, so that the instrument that they've always coveted and dreamed of or dreamed up in their head winds up in their hands and is able to convey this incredible music that is such a big part of our lives across the community.
Well, I remember how much fun it was when I introduced you to Roger Seidman down there at Skull and Roses, and then he got to go up on stage with the China Cats playing one of those Phil Lesh basses. I know how great it felt to see that happening. So you must be making dreams come true for a lot of people all over the place, and that's a lovely thing. We are running out of time here, unfortunately. We got to turn the things back over to the stage where Dead and Company are about to play set 2. But it's been really lovely to talk to you. I appreciate your background. Those are some of the instruments that we're talking about here. And gratefulguitars.org is a place to find out more. See if you can get one of the last remaining tickets for August 13th at the Great American Music Hall. Apply to have one of these instruments made for you, or contribute to the dreams coming true for lots of people. I'm sure you can make a donation at that site if you want to help this project go further, and that would be a lovely thing to do. Thank you, Jason Scheuner, for your time.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Gary. Gary, please give my regards to the couch. And I also want to once again thank the folks at the Great American Music Hall for making this happen. They have just been wonderful to work with, and if you've ever been in that room, you know it's one of the most special places to see music in the whole world.
Yeah, I actually got to stage a Blues for Allah tribute myself back in 1995 at the same venue along the same line.
And I got to organize one on the 40th anniversary in 2015. We did an all-star tribute to Blues for Allah that day too. So that room has a great history. It's a lovely room to play in, I can tell you from personal experience, and it's going to be a magical night on every level.
Great.
Thank you.
I can't thank you guys enough, gentlemen.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
And back to the stage with Dead and Company.